Let's begin by opening the original Chapter 7 camera01.max file. Click on the Application button. If you've been following along, the file should be in the Recent Documents section right at the top level of the Application menu. If it is, go ahead and click on it and open it. If it's not, click Open, navigate to the Chapter 7 subdirectory, and open the file Chapter 7 camera01.max. This is a fairly boring image. Not only is our camera at a flat level, but everything is perfectly centered and very symmetrical. And there's no single defined point of focus. Some of you may think, well, the Bunsen burner is the point of focus because it's large and it's in the middle of the scene. Well, that may be indeed the case because it's the largest object on the table. However, we haven't established any formal composition, and the current point of view is a very static point of view. No matter what you're doing, anytime you create a visual that somebody's going to look at using 3ds Max, you should always consider the rule of thirds when placing your cameras. Imagine that we divide the screen vertically and horizontally by two lines equally spaced. The main objects in your scene should be at the intersection of these rule of thirds lines. If we want to make a simple change that truly establishes the Bunsen burner as the focal point of our scene, we can use the hand tool in the navigation toolbar, which is the button that looks like a little hand. If we click on it and then click and drag our mouse in the camera viewport so that the Bunsen burner is now approximately 1/3 the way from the left and 1/3 the way down from the top. This will place our Bunsen burner in the upper left intersection point. This now establishes the Bunsen burner as our primary point of focus in this scene. Keep in mind that because we view from left to right and top to bottom, placing it at the upper left intersection will make this object more dominant than objects placed at the other intersections. However, if we look on the right-hand side, we have a lot of negative space or empty space, and that's making our image lack interest. Now we can place a nice texture on the wall and that might help. However, we really don't have anything to offset the Bunsen burner and give us a little bit more of a dynamic visual image. Let's fix this by moving the Bunsen burner from the upper left intersection to the upper right intersection. To do this, click on the Pan tool from the navigation toolbar and click and drag the mouse to the right so that you place the Bunsen burner on the intersection 1/3 of the way down and 1/3 of the way from the right-hand side. Now we get to read through the room. We can see out the window, which adds a little more interest, and we eventually get to the right-hand intersection, which is our main subject, the Bunsen burner. We can use the lower rule of thirds intersections if we bring the Bunsen burner down to the lower left-hand side, approximately 1/3 of the way from the bottom and 1/3 away from the left. We can set this position and give ourselves lots of room on the upper right-hand side if we want to do something like, say we're going to use titles that we want to superimpose along the back wall. If we move it to the bottom right, it lessens the impact the Bunsen burner has in our scene, but still it's a point of focus. Again, the rule of thirds as a compositional rule is designed to help you elicit an emotional response from the viewer. Always try and do your best to keep the centrally located, boring and static objects out of your compositions. The only exception to that rule is if the object is put there for a very specific reason. For example, if you're demonstrating how an object operates, the object may be large and completely dead center in your scene. While the rule of thirds is a compositional rule that you should try and stick to as often as possible, there are times where the rule doesn't need to be applied in your scene composition.